Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you, featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today I have a very interesting person on my show, and you're going to see why. First of all, I have a question for you. You know, in the audience, sometimes you're going to want to know why I do a certain show. Well, let me tell you why. Have you ever considered the peacefulness and serenity of being on a luxurious sailing yacht where the only sounds you hear are the sounds of the wind in the sails and the water as your yacht slices through it? Now you can enjoy such a treat aboard the luxury yacht, and it's called the Charade Sailboat Charters. And my guest today is Chuck Harad, who's going to tell you all about this ship and a little bit about his life. And the reason that I have him on the show, because I think he is an inspiration to a lot of people, and he's going to tell you why I think that. So with that in mind, let me tell you a little bit about Charles, okay? Because I think you're going to want to know a little bit about him, and this is pretty interesting, actually. Chuck Harad is a longtime sailor with 30 years' experience. He prides himself on safety and comfort for his passengers. He wants you to feel at home on the boat Charade as he sails on the seas. Now, the other thing that's really interesting about Chuck is that he transitioned from being a lawyer into doing this captain thing, and it's really inspirational because somebody who is really intellectually stimulated finds himself in a situation where being on a boat, a sailboat, sailing through is just a fabulous feeling, and it's something that all people ought to know about because you don't have to end your career at age 65 or whatever. You can go on to be something special and to have a passion for. So the long and the short of it is that I want to welcome Chuck Harad, a longtime sailor, on my show. And this is the Susan Brender Show. And welcome, Chuck.
Good morning, Susan, and thank you.
You know, Chuck, you heard me mention in my intro that you started out as a lawyer, and I want the audience to know a little bit about your story. I think they're going to find it, as I said, inspirational. So tell us about it.
Well, about 45 or so years ago, I had finished school, had spent a little bit of time in the Navy Reserve, and had also been working for the phone company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I came down with something they called mononucleosis at the time, missed a couple of months from work, and at that point decided that there was something more important for me to do. So in August of 1967, I applied to law school. And the day before registration, I was invited by Villanova Law School to show up and start class.
I see. Now, becoming a lawyer is not an easy thing. Did you have a passion for it, or was it just because it was a career that ultimately might have paid?
The pay wasn't what I was thinking about at the time. I was more concerned with having something important to do and having the ability to work with people and help them through their problems.
What sort of lawyer were you? What was your specialty?
I ultimately became a litigator, primarily civil cases. I did not do criminal work. I represented insurance companies, and I represented people who were involved in accidents and had injuries against insurance companies. So in essence, I worked both sides of the street.
Well, when you say that you were a litigator, you actually went to court and you would fight for, as you said, insurance companies and people like that. What we see on television, like Law and Order and other shows where, you know, the lawyer looks like he's just, or he or she looks like they're in a situation which is really exciting. Was it exciting for you?
I think that real life is something less than what you see on television, as far as the excitement level is concerned.
So you're saying that that is just a made-up thing rather than the reality.
Of course, it's scripted.
Okay. All right. Now,
they have to get an awful lot into about 48 minutes or so,
Yeah, I know. And, people think that it's a very, how shall we say, a sexy job, if you will, but it's not always, correct?
Oh, if it were. But no, it's not.
Okay. Let's transition now to what happened after you served as a lawyer and, what was the beginning of you thinking, okay, now I have a chance to do something that I'm passionate about?
I welcomed it, I think. I had gotten, after about 35 years of doing the law thing, I was growing tired of it. I was tired of people ordering me around and telling us, I guess, that we had to be in certain places at certain times, that we had to settle cases, that we couldn't do what we were paid to do, which was actually represent our clients. And basically, these people were called judges, and a lot of them just didn't want to work. I had volunteered a lot of my time to assist the judicial system in the city. I was a settlement master. I conducted arbitration hearings. I did everything I could to reduce the burden on the court system. I also had clients to represent, and I didn't like being told certain things that I had to do so that the judge wouldn't have to.
So you're a man who is likes his freedom. You like to be sort of in charge of your own well-being, if you will. And so, again, since you pride yourself on being a particularly interesting captain who has a job inviting people to be on your boat and to go places all over the world, if you will. Have that start. And when it started, did you like it from the very beginning?
Well, now I've got to back up a little bit because as you asked the question, I think there's some things in there that may not be simple to answer. Basically, in 1984, just to tell you how I got started in sailing, in 1984 I belonged to a country club, which included a golf course. As a member of the club, and I was a tennis member, I was allowed to play golf a couple of times. To make it short, I played one day, and at the end of the day, the club manager came to me and invited me not to play the course again. So I called the Annapolis Sailing School, went down, took a weekend course in basic sailing, and then I went back. Well, then I bought a boat, and then I went and gave the guy my resignation, telling him that the club needed me more than I needed the club. And that was the beginning of sailing for me.
That's very interesting. Now, did your experience you said you were in the Naval Reserve, was the experience there sort of the way in which you thought that you would be able to do what you do?
Not really, no.
Really? Explain that.
Well, I was in the submarine reserve, and I was learning about submarine, and spent my time at New London, Connecticut, and then I got a discharge. I think all young people who don't have direction and don't know what they want to do, and that I believe would be most of them, especially if it's the FBI or something.
Chuck, I don't usually talk to people about the military unless that's, of course, what their specialty is. But I'm just curious, having been in the military and experienced a way to kind of develop skills and, really become more mature, do you think that young people today, both men and women, should be in the military after they graduate high school?
Simple answer is yes.
Okay. Well, give us a little more information about why you feel yes.
For those that don't know what they want to do and haven't had the guidance to figure out what they should do, I think it's a great way to do a couple of things. One, it's a good way to serve the country, and two, it's a good way to learn a skill. And there are so many skills that are available in the armed forces, which don't include shooting guns at people, that I think it's just a terrific way to find yourself and to find direction, and also to get some organization in your life.
Yeah. All right. Now let's transition, or let's talk a little bit more about your boat and the experience that people have had and what they've said to you in the past.
Sure.
What have people said to you about your cruise, your sailboat? They must have opinions about whether they like it or they don't like it, or how it affects them having this kind of experience. I'm just wondering what you heard.
Opinions are replete on TripAdvisor, for instance. There's 30-some opinions there, all of which are 5-star and excellent ratings. My objective in having this particular boat, which is a 45-foot center cockpit boat, was to have a boat that would be large enough to accommodate 6 guests. We have a covered cockpit, which gives those that want to be in the shade. We have an uncovered sun deck, which allows people to lie on pads and sun. We have chairs or seats in the rail of the boat in the back or the stern, which also allows people to sit, and they can sit back there and see the sails and see where we're going and look all around. Sometimes we get visited by some sea life, so they can see that and appreciate it. We also have
seeing some sea life. What kind of sea life are you talking about?
Well, the typical kind for South Florida is usually dolphins, porpoises, sea turtles, flying fish. Occasionally we'll see a sailfish chasing down food, and it'll jump out of the water a few times. So
how much fun is that?
There are things to see. Yeah, pardon?
I'm gonna get into something which I think you might know a little bit about, but if you don't, that's okay. I just want to find out. Mm-hmm. Now, our seas used to be very clean, and they were, really a pleasure to be on. And today, when you sail, even if you're on a cruise boat, you see all kinds of garbage, and you see all kinds of things floating in the water. And you are captain, and I think that when you see something like that, you must be appalled. So, what do you think about that? And what would you do? What would you say to the cruise ships or these people who just own little boats? What would you tell them about garbage and pollution and how our seas have changed?
That's a very interesting question. A lot of the stuff we see out in the ocean is there as a result of carelessness or negligence. You see styrofoam packages floating in the water, that somebody took a sandwich out of or something, probably may have put it down on the beach, and it blew away out into the ocean, and it just continues floating out there forever. Occasionally we see plastic bags. Of course, they're totally dangerous to anything that lives in the ocean. I've seen trees floating in the ocean. I've seen debris of all sorts. Interesting, too, a lot of the people that have property along the intracoastal down here, when their landscapers cut the grass, the cuttings go into the water, and that's not exactly healthy.
I'll tell you something, Chuck. I have a friend who actually is dealing with the water and the marshes and all the different things that are associated with oceans and the environment. And what he has said is that people are building right close to the sea, and as a result, you're seeing our beaches depleted. You're seeing, as you said before, all this debris that is floating around. Have you ever had a conversation with anybody to say to them, listen, we don't like this happening, and it's really affecting those of us who really love the ocean and think about the environment? Any time that you've really had a conversation with one of our politicians about this?
Negative. But my conversations do go to the people that I take out. And we always control our trash. When we pick them up, the boat is clean. When we drop them off, we typically will have trash bags and things to deposit in trash receptacles at the place where I drop them off. And so the boat comes clean and goes clean, and the trash is always in the appropriate places. I think most people feel that way, but I can't tell you that they all act that way.
Yeah, I think.
And I can't speak to what large shipping does. I can't speak to what cruise ships and military ships and commercial vessels do. Except that they're supposed to be packing they're either supposed to be macerating everything, grinding it up, or packing it for disposal ashore as opposed to disposal at sea.
Yeah, and with regard to this issue of the environment, it seems to me that young people today, you see them on these, I call them skidoos. I don't know what they're really called, but, all these different things that are that people can rent, and there's a lot of irresponsibility because these people don't know what they're doing.
It's amazing to me how many incompetent and uneducated boating operators there are in places like South Florida and the inlets, etc. There are people out there driving boats or driving things like wave runners or jet skis or things like that don't know the rules, don't know what to do with them, get in the way, and create major problems, if not actual problems.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a terrible accident on the sea?
A terrible accident? Not yet. I have seen boats blow up. I have seen fires at sea. I've seen a few other things like that. But I have not seen a terrible accident with bodies floating, etc.
But you've seen plenty. And this is just for curiosity. There was a time, for example, when I was in Belize, just for an example, and we saw boats actually delivering drugs. Now you live, you're here in South Florida, and it seems to me that a lot of drugs come into this area. Have you ever seen any boat that does drugs floating in the water and that sort of thing as well?
No.
Okay, so you're one of the lucky ones, right? Okay. Last
yes.
but not least,
if that's how you describe it.
Okay. So, Chuck, last but not least, what I like to do is I always like to leave the last part of this for something that you think is very valuable for people to hear.
Okay. Well, for me, it's valuable for people to hear that Charade Sailboat Charters operates a 45-foot center cockpit sailboat out of Pompano Beach, Florida. We run 4-hour trips almost every day, whenever we have at least 4 people or a private trip to go. We cruise the waters between Boca Raton and Fort Lauderdale. Our guests usually bring picnic, including beverages. Beer, white wine, and champagne are allowed. Hard liquor and red wine is not. We like to show them the sights. We hope that they get to see sea life, like dolphins, porpoises, turtles, etc. In the heat of the summer, we like to be able to take them close to a beach and either anchor or tie off the boat to a bowl to allow them to go swimming for, a while. I try to give them instruction in basic sailing, explain to them what makes a sailboat go, give them an opportunity to help in the operation of the boat, including driving it, taking out the sails, tacking the sails, jibing. They're all nautical terms that apply to sailboats, but by the time they leave, they have a little bit of experience, and they're kind of happy about that. Of course, there are those that don't want to do anything except lie in the sun, et cetera, and they're as welcome to do that as anything else.
Right. And if they want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Typically, we have a website, charadesailboatcharters.com. And that has our email address, which is charadecharters@aol.com. And we're happy to respond to emails, phone calls, 561-272-4555 as our landline. And we also have a cell phone, 215-605-9990.
Well, my guest today has been Captain Charles, or Chuck as he likes to call himself, Harad, who is an owner of a wonderful sailboat that has lots of opportunities for people to experience what sailing is like, and he gives you a great day, and I think that anybody who gets involved in it is going to have a great time. So thank you so much, Chuck Harad, for being on the Susan Brender Show. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Susan. My pleasure.
Back in my day, to become an author, you had to master your craft. You needed a team that you could trust, a team that would never flinch in battle. Back in my day, you would risk losing your rights and pay outrageous amounts for terrible service. Well, yesterday is not today. Gladiator Publishing Company has a century-long reputation for defending writers and readers and winning awards for their record-setting low-cost services and market sales. They are 75 to 80% more cost-effective and never touch your royalties or copyrights. Go with a publisher that is so transparent that they have their contract on their webpage. Have your book treated with honesty, loyalty, and respect, period. Visit us at gladiatorpublishing.com or text us at 417-291-9162.
Thank you for listening to The Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.